I didn't know the night that was supposed to celebrate our future would become the moment everything I believed about love finally collapsed. The restaurant was glowing, soft amber lights, crystal glasses clinking, laughter rising and falling like music. My mother had flown in from Detroit. Her cousins drove 3 hours just to be there. Friends were already talking about wedding colors, honeymoon destinations, baby names they joked about but secretly meant. This was our engagement dinner, and I was smiling so hard my cheeks ached. I remember smoothing my dress, deep emerald green, the one he said made me look regal. I remember thinking, this is it. This is the moment Black girls like me are told doesn't come easy. A healthy love, a man who chose me, a future that felt secure. Then he stood up, tapped his glass, and said words that cracked something open inside my chest. "Before we eat," he said, voice confident, almost rehearsed, "there's someone very important I want you all to meet." I laughed at first, so did everyone else. I assumed it was a joke, maybe a surprise planner, maybe a long-lost aunt. I squeezed his hand, proud of him, unaware that my entire life was about to tilt. Then I saw her. She stood up slowly from a table behind us, tall, poised, brown skin like polished bronze, a navy blue dress that hugged her like it belonged there. She didn't look confused, she didn't look surprised, she looked prepared. "This," he said, gesturing toward her, "is Naomi." Naomi. He didn't say coworker, he didn't say friend, he didn't say family. He paused, and in that pause my heart began to pound so loudly I could barely hear the room. "She's someone who's been a very important part of my life," he continued, "and I think it's time everyone knows the truth." The word truth landed like a gunshot. I felt my mother stiffen beside me. My best friend's fork froze halfway to her mouth. The room fell into an uneasy silence, thick, uncomfortable, watchful. I turned toward him, still smiling out of instinct, whispering, "What are you doing?" He didn't look at me, not once. Naomi met my eyes instead, and in that moment I understood something that terrified me. She wasn't here to be introduced, she was here to be revealed. My engagement ring suddenly felt heavy, like it didn't belong on my finger. And as he kept talking, explaining, confessing, unraveling something I didn't yet have language for, I realized this wasn't a mistake. This was a performance, a carefully timed one, and I was the only person in the room who didn't know the script. I would later replay this moment 1,000 times, ask myself what signs I missed, what instincts I ignored. But right then, all I knew was this. The man I planned to marry was standing in front of me, introducing another woman at our engagement dinner, and whatever he was about to say next was going to change me forever. My name is Ariel Johnson. I'm 34 years old, a project manager at a mid-sized architecture firm in Chicago, the kind of Black woman people describe as strong, even when I don't feel like it. I grew up learning how to be responsible early. My father left when I was 10, not dramatically, no shouting, just absence. One day he was supposed to pick me up from school, he never came. My mother raised my brother and I on discipline, prayer, and quiet resilience. She taught me how to survive, but no one ever taught me how to be chosen. So when Marcus Ellis walked into my life, he felt like an answer I didn't know I was allowed to ask for. We met 3 years ago at a charity gala my firm helped sponsor. I was there for work, he was there because his company had donated. Tall, calm, thoughtful eyes, the kind of man who listened without interrupting. When he asked what I did, he didn't glaze over when I explained my job, he asked questions. When I told him where I was from, he didn't make jokes about stereotypes, he just nodded and said, "That explains your strength." I remember thinking, this man sees me. Marcus worked in private equity. He dressed well, but never flashy, always early, always prepared, and most importantly, he courted me. Flowers, intentional dates, good morning texts that didn't turn sexual by noon. He met my mother within 6 months, called her Miss Johnson, even when she told him not to. When he proposed last winter, quietly, privately, on a snow-dusted bridge, I cried so hard I forgot to say yes right away. I thought I'd won, but looking back now, there were things I dismissed, like how Marcus kept certain parts of his life separate. He never posted me online, said he valued privacy. He had friends I never met, business circles, he claimed. When I asked about his past relationships, he'd smile and say, "I don't like dragging old chapters into new stories." It sounded mature, but it was also vague. We didn't live together. He said he wanted to do things the right way. And maybe because I'd waited so long to be chosen, I didn't want to ask questions that might unchoose me. Then there was his family. His mother was polite but distant. She complimented my manners more than my presence. His sister barely spoke to me at all. I once overheard his aunt whisper, "She seems nice, but is she permanent?" Marcus laughed it off. "They're old school," he said. "They'll come around." I wanted to believe him because everything else looked right. The ring, the venue shortlist, the engagement photos we hadn't posted yet. The future felt so close I could touch it, which is why the engagement dinner mattered so much to me. This was the night our worlds officially merged, our families, our friends, our truth. I had no idea that Marcus had planned it to be something else entirely, something that would force me to confront the one thing I'd been avoiding my whole life, the difference between being chosen and being used. The silence in the restaurant was no longer polite. It was heavy, expectant, unforgiving. Marcus cleared his throat, still standing, still holding his glass like this was some kind of toast. Naomi took a step forward. That's when I noticed her hand. She was wearing a ring too, not an engagement ring, but something intimate, intentional. My stomach dropped. "Marcus," I said again, louder this time, "what is this?" He finally looked at me, and the softness I was used to seeing was gone. "Ariel," he said carefully, "I didn't want you to hear this from someone else." A few people shifted in their seats. Someone coughed. Naomi's voice cut through the tension before I could speak again. "I didn't know tonight was your engagement dinner," she said, eyes steady on me. "I was told this was a family announcement." Family. My mother stood up so abruptly her chair scraped the floor. "Marcus," she said, voice tight, "what kind of announcement involves humiliating my daughter?" He raised his hand slightly, asking for patience. That gesture did something to me, because it wasn't apologetic, it was controlling. "There's no easy way to say this," he said, "so I'll just say it." He turned to Naomi, then back to me. "Naomi and I have been together for 5 years." The room gasped. 5 years. I felt the blood drain from my face. "That's not possible," I whispered. "We've been together for 3. He nodded. "Yes," he said, "we have." Naomi swallowed hard. "I'm pregnant," she said quietly. The sound that left my throat wasn't a scream. It was something worse, a broken inhale that never fully became air. I looked around the room, waiting for someone to stop this, to say it was a joke, to stand up and say we were being pranked, but no one did. Marcus continued, like a man reciting numbers at a board meeting. "I was going to tell you after the wedding," he said to me, "but circumstances changed." After the wedding. My best friend Danielle stood up, shaking. "You were going to marry her," she said, pointing at me, "while you had a whole other woman pregnant?" Marcus exhaled. "It's complicated." Naomi laughed bitterly. "It's always is when you're the secret," she said. Secret. I turned toward her. "How long did you know about me?" I asked. She hesitated. 2 months, she said. "He told me he was ending things with you." I nodded slowly. Of course he did. Marcus reached for my hand. I pulled away. "Why?" I asked him. "Why propose to me?" His answer shattered me more than the betrayal. "Because you're stable," he said. "You're reliable. You'd be a great wife." A great wife. Not loved, not chosen, useful. The restaurant buzzed with whispers now. Phones came out. Someone was recording. My mother grabbed my arm. "We're leaving," she said.
but I couldn't move because Naomi was crying now and Marcus was still standing. And somehow, in the middle of my humiliation, I realized this night wasn't just about me. It was about two women being played against each other by a man who believed he deserved both. And as security approached, someone had complained. I finally stood, removed the ring, placed it on the table, and said the last thing Marcus expected. "Congratulations," I told Naomi, voice shaking but clear. "I hope he tells you the truth someday." Then I walked out, not knowing that what came next would be even more devastating. I didn't sleep that night, or the next, or the one after that. Every time I closed my eyes, I was back in that restaurant, the clink of glass, the hush of shock, the way Marcus said stable like it was a compliment. By morning, the video was everywhere. Someone had posted it online with a caption that read, "Engagement dinner gone wrong." My phone wouldn't stop vibrating. Texts, calls, voicemails I didn't listen to. Some people were sympathetic, some were curious. A few asked questions that made me want to disappear. How did you not know? Were you two really that serious? Are you okay? That last one hurt the most because I didn't know how to answer it. I took time off work, told my boss I had a family emergency, which wasn't a lie, because my heart felt like a death had occurred. Marcus showed up at my apartment 2 days later. I didn't answer the door at first. He knocked again, then again. "I know you're in there, Ariel," he said through the door. "Please, we need to talk." Need, like I owed him closure. Against my better judgment, I opened the door. He looked exhausted, wrinkled suit, dark circles under his eyes. "Good," he said immediately. "I didn't plan for it to happen like that. It just got out of hand." I stared at him. "You brought another woman to our engagement dinner? You let her announce her pregnancy in front of my family." He ran a hand through his hair. "I was under pressure," he said. "Naomi gave me an ultimatum." I laughed, a short, humorless sound. "So you chose to sacrifice me?" "No," he said quickly. "I was trying to keep everything from falling apart." "Everything, not everyone." He stepped closer. "You and I could still work if you can be flexible." That word again. Useful, stable, flexible. I realized something then. Marcus didn't see me as a woman who deserved honesty. He saw me as a solution, a wife who made sense on paper. I closed the door in his face, but the fallout didn't end there. His mother called my mother, said it was unfortunate, but best not to drag things out. My aunt asked if I'd been too career-focused. My cousin suggested I forgive him. You know how hard it is to find a good man. Good man. As if betrayal was the price of companionship. Naomi messaged me once, just one sentence. "I didn't know. I'm sorry." I believed her, and that made everything worse, because I couldn't even hate her. I hated myself instead, for ignoring the signs, for believing consistency meant commitment, for thinking being chosen was the same as being respected. I packed the ring into a drawer, unfollowed everyone, stopped answering calls, and for the first time in years, I sat alone in my apartment and allowed myself to feel something I'd avoided my entire life: grief. Not just for the relationship, but for the woman I was before I knew how easily love could be negotiated away. And that's when the truth began to surface, not from Marcus, but from someone who had been watching quietly the whole time.
The message came from a number I didn't recognize. No name, no introduction, just a single sentence. "You deserve to know who you almost married." I stared at my phone for a long time before responding. "Who is this?" I typed. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. Then the phone rang. I answered without saying hello. "This is going to be hard to hear," a woman said. Her voice was older, steady, controlled. "My name is Patricia Ellis," she continued. "Marcus is my son." My chest tightened. "This isn't his mother," I said automatically. "No," she replied. "I'm his first wife." First wife. I sat down hard on the edge of the couch. "We were married for 12 years, Patricia said. "I left when I realized he didn't see women as partners, only roles." Roles. That word echoed painfully familiar. She told me everything. Marcus had always lived a double life, one woman for image, another for control. Patricia was the image. Naomi was the control. I was meant to replace Patricia. He marries women who stabilize him socially, she said, then keeps another woman emotionally dependent. My hands shook. So Naomi knew? I asked. No, she didn't at first, Patricia said. None of us ever do. She explained how Marcus had lost significant money 2 years ago, bad investments, lawsuits he never mentioned. He needed a wife with strong credit, a respected career, clean public image. Me. The engagement wasn't about love, she said quietly. It was about survival. I closed my eyes. Every conversation replayed itself in my mind. The vagueness, the privacy, the separation, all intentional. Patricia sent me documents, court records, settlement agreements, NDAs. I wasn't the first. I was just the next. Then she said something that changed everything. He proposed to you because Naomi refused to sign a prenup. I felt sick. And now? I asked. Now, she said, he has nothing to anchor him. I hung up and sat there in silence, not crying, not shaking, just clear. For the first time since that dinner, I wasn't confused. I wasn't embarrassed. I was angry, but not reckless anger, focused anger, the kind that doesn't scream, the kind that plans. Because Marcus had underestimated one thing. He thought I'd disappear quietly. What he didn't know was that I finally understood everything. And once a woman like me sees the truth, she doesn't beg, she doesn't compete, she reclaims. I didn't confront Marcus again, not because I was afraid, but because I finally understood something that took me years to learn. Not everyone deserves access to your healing. Instead, I started making quiet moves. I met with a lawyer, not to sue, not to expose, just to protect myself. We reviewed everything Marcus had ever signed in my presence: joint plans, financial conversations, wedding deposits. I canceled what needed canceling. The venue refunded half. The florist sent condolences. The photographer told me I was brave. I didn't feel brave. I felt awake. I sent Naomi one last message. You don't owe me anything, but don't let him convince you this is love. She didn't reply. I hoped someday she'd understand. Marcus tried again. Voicemails, emails, long messages filled with regret that never quite turned into accountability. I never meant to hurt you. You were important to me. I hope you can forgive me. But never, I was wrong. So I blocked him. Everywhere. And something strange happened after that. The noise stopped. The world didn't end. My life didn't collapse. Instead, it grew quieter, stronger. I went back to work, held my head high. When people asked what happened, I didn't explain. I simply said, it wasn't right for me. And that was enough. One night, weeks later, I sat with my mother on my couch. She reached for my hand. I'm proud of you, she said. For leaving? I asked. For choosing yourself, she replied. That's when I cried. Not from pain, but from release. I wasn't the woman who had been humiliated at a restaurant. I wasn't the almost wife. I was the woman who walked away before she became a cautionary tale. And for the first time in my life, being alone didn't feel like failure. It felt like freedom. 6 months later, I was sitting in a small cafe on the south side of Chicago. Sunlight filtered through the window, casting golden streaks across the table. I had a notebook open in front of me, sketches and plans for a side business I'd been dreaming about for years, consulting for young Black women in corporate spaces, helping them navigate challenges I had learned the hard way. Life had a quiet rhythm now. No chaos, no manipulations, no Marcus. I thought about that night, the engagement dinner that had nearly shattered me. I remembered the hush of the room, the sharpness of betrayal, and the cold calculation in his voice. But I no longer felt anger. Not like before, not the kind that curls your stomach and steals your sleep. Now it was clarity, a recognition that love wasn't just about being chosen. It was about being seen, respected, and safe. I had learned that lesson the hard way, and because of it, I had reclaimed something far more important: myself. As I sipped my coffee, my phone buzzed. A text from Danielle. "Lunch tomorrow? Someone wants to hear about your new venture." I smiled. I had people who cared, people who respected my boundaries, and I had myself. Looking out the window, I saw children playing in the park across the street, parents laughing, couples walking hand in hand, and I realized something. Life goes on. It always does. But how you walk through it matters, with your head high, with your dignity intact, and with the courage to never settle for being a placeholder in someone else's story. I closed my notebook, took a deep breath, and whispered softly to myself, "I'm not the almost wife. I'm Ariel, and I'm free." The sun dipped lower, golden light warmed my face, and for the first time in months, I felt the kind of peace that comes only from knowing your worth and claiming it.